Versatile Sword Cultivator. Chapter 10. Lin Jichen, the unscrupulous merchant scribble hub. Wang Jinghao's gaze was icy as he asked, "Are you sure you want to oppose me?" The short-haired woman glanced at him and said, "The highest bidder wins. We're all free to make our offers. How is that opposition? Just because you're interested in something, does that mean no one else can be? Who bids like you do? How I bid is my business." "Fine, very well." With those cold words, Wang Jinghao turned to leave. To him, 500,000 was a mere trifle, but spending that much on a piece of beginner's equipment, as a scion of a business family, he didn't want to be taken for a fool. Besides, he had the feeling that even if he was willing to pay 500,000, the other party would continue to raise the price. "Brother Wang, wait a moment!" Lin Jichen suddenly called out to him. Wang Jinghao turned around, and Lin Jichen said with a look of sincerity, "After all, we are friends. If you're willing to pay 500,000, I'll sell the bow to you." Wang Jinghao was overjoyed and immediately agreed. The short-haired woman was taken aback and angrily said, "How can you go back on your word? Didn't we agree the highest bidder wins?" Lin Jichen said apologetically, "Sorry, beautiful. I know Brother Wang. He just helped me out, and I owe him a favor. Please understand." The short-haired woman clenched her teeth but said no more. After all, from the conversation between Wang Jinghao and Lin Jichen, it was clear they knew each other. "Brother Lin, I'm definitely making friends with you. Send me your account, and I'll transfer the money right away. Once the money is in, you can hand over the equipment to me." Wang Jinghao was smiling proudly, feeling that the money was well spent. "By the way, I have quite a bit of copper coins. Early in the game, a guild like yours must need game currency, right? How about I sell those to you as well?" Wang Jinghao was even happier, nodding repeatedly and saying, "These copper coins are a godsend. I'll take them and add another 50,000. In reality, the copper coins weren't worth 50,000. Wang Jinghao was simply trying to get closer to Lin Jichen. Lin Jichen didn't waste words and sent his account to him. One of Wang Jinghao's subordinates immediately logged off. In less than a minute, Lin Jichen's phone received a bank message notification. 550,000 had been transferred into his account. After getting the money, Lin Jichen handed over the green bamboo snake bow, over 100 poison arrows, and more than 100 copper coins to Wang Jinghao. Seeing the transaction, the short-haired woman knew she couldn't object and left with a cold face. Wang Jinghao was very happy and wanted to bond with Lin Jichen as sworn brothers to foster their relationship. But Lin Jichen excused himself again, leaving Wang Jinghao somewhat disappointed. He still wanted to ask if Lin Jichen's storage bag was for sale. Once out of everyone's sight, Lin Jichen followed the direction in which the group of beautiful female players had left. The Stalkers program officially begins. Just kidding. In the wild boar forest outside the village, Lin Jichen saw the short-haired woman leading her subordinates in leveling up and grinding monsters. Lin Jichen approached, and they quickly noticed him. "What are you doing here?" The short-haired woman looked at Lin Jichen with some disgust. It wasn't because Lin Jichen didn't buy her equipment that she disliked him, but she disdained the way he was chummy with people like Wang Jinghao. Anyone close to Wang Jinghao was either his lackey or just as crooked. Such a waste of a good-looking guy. "Humph!" Lin Jichen didn't mind her look and got straight to the point. "Can we talk alone? It'll just take 2 minutes of your time." The short-haired woman thought that Lin Jichen had just met Wang Jinghao and was probably deceived by his facade. With the intention of warning him, she nodded and said, "Let's talk over there." The two walked aside. "What is it? Just tell me." "I have information for you, for 500,000. Lin Jichen sounded like a shrewd businessman right from the start. The short-haired woman's expression turned sour as she scoffed. "Are you playing me? What kind of information is worth 500,000? Information that will put your guild ahead of other players. Aren't you curious how I could part with such good equipment?" Lin Jichen's words made the short-haired woman's expression soften slightly. Tell me the information first. If it's worth the price, I'll pay you 500,000. Lin Jichen didn't even think before refusing. That won't do. I could sell this information to Wang Jinghao for at least 1 million. How can I trust you without knowing the information? The short-haired woman retorted. Lin Jichen played the rogue and turned to leave. If you don't trust me, forget it. I'll sell it to Wang Jinghao. Wait, come back. The short-haired woman was frustrated, but had no choice but to call him back. She didn't trust Lin Jichen, but she was more afraid that what he said was true and would end up selling it to Wang Jinghao, giving him an advantage. Lin Jichen was waiting for this. Hearing her call, he immediately turned back, grinning at the woman. The short-haired woman looked at Lin Jichen's smug face, grinding her teeth in anger. If you've deceived me, I'll make sure you understand the consequences of angering the Moonshadow Guild. Send your account. Lin Jichen was unfazed and cheerfully sent his account. Shortly after, his account was credited with another 500,000. Less than an hour into the game, Lin Jichen had made 1 million. If this had been before his rebirth, he would have been excited enough to sing. But now he wasn't interested in money, because once the game merged with reality, real-world money would be worthless. But for now, he still needed money. He still owed Renlan money. He couldn't really be a gigolo, although he did kind of want to. What quest did you take on? Lin Jichen didn't reveal the information, but instead asked the short-haired woman. The short-haired woman, suppressing her doubts, replied, The village butcher's quest. We need wild boar meat. Why? Don't do it. Give up that quest. Why? The short-haired woman stared into Lin Jichen's eyes. She suspected this guy was sent by Wang Jinghao to trick her. If that was the case, she would chop him up right now. Go to the weapon shop and take on a quest there. You can't get any quests at the weapon shop. Who are you trying to fool? The short-haired woman retorted, her staff already itching to strike. That's because you're not doing it right. The shop owner is forging. You just need to help him operate the bellows for 5 minutes, and you'll get a quest, Lin Jichen explained. Really? The short-haired woman was skeptical. Don't believe me? Send a subordinate to try it out. But be discreet. Don't let other players find out, or the information won't be worth anything. The short-haired woman, half convinced, called over a beautiful subordinate, who immediately rushed to the village after receiving the order. Lin Jichen waited with the short-haired woman. This information is worth 500,000. You're making money too easily. The short-haired woman still felt cheated, thinking the quest wasn't worth that much. Lin Jichen smiled and said, The quest itself isn't worth much, but the reward is very valuable. He took out the letter, and the short-haired woman exclaimed in surprise, This is a sect invitation. Lin Jichen nodded. That's right. Only with this can you find out where the sect is and be admitted. So doing these wild boar quests is useless. They'll only reward you with copper coins and cultivation. The short-haired woman was puzzled. Aren't copper coins and cultivation also important? Lin Jichen stretched lazily and replied, Cultivation is indeed important, but you can get much more from sect quests, and there are many ways to increase cultivation. As for copper coins, they're just currency for mundane transactions. What's truly valuable are spirit stones. The short-haired woman was slightly taken aback by the news. How do you know all this? That's none of your concern. Just tell me if the information is worth 500,000. The short-haired woman thought for a moment and honestly replied, If what you say is true, it's definitely worth the price. Chapter 11, Wild Boar King. Why didn't you sell it to Wang Jinghao? Aren't you friends? The short-haired woman asked quickly. Who told you I'm his friend? That scumbag doesn't deserve to be my friend. I was just putting on a show with him. As a solo player with no money or influence, I have to endure to get by. Lin Jichen shrugged, speaking casually. The short-haired woman couldn't help but ask, Then why did you sell the bow to him? Wouldn't it be better to sell it to me? Plus, I offered a higher price. Lin Jichen sighed and said, I did it for your own good. That bow isn't worth that much, and the poisoned arrows are limited. Once they're used up, that's it. Buying it would be a waste of money. Besides, once you join a sect, they'll provide you with basic weapons that are far superior in attributes. You know all this? Are you a beta tester? But I've never heard of a beta for this game, the short-haired woman exclaimed in surprise. Realizing he had said too much, Lin Jichen quickly explained, You've seen Nuwa in the game, right? Of course. I got the information from her. Is that even possible? The short-haired woman was shocked again, her mouth agape in a somewhat naive and cute expression. I've asked her a few questions too, but she didn't tell me anything. Lin Jichen replied without a hint of embarrassment. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe she thinks I'm too handsome. The short-haired woman rolled her eyes at Lin Jichen, but after hearing his words, she no longer disliked him. However, everything would have to wait until her subordinates returned. Just as the two were waiting, a wave of panic erupted behind them. It's over. It looks like we've encountered a boss. Why is this wild boar so much bigger than the others? Xiao Yue was killed by a single hit. Boo-hoo-hoo. Wanling's sister, save me. Hearing the commotion, the short-haired woman immediately turned around, and Lin Jichen also looked back. They saw a giant wild boar charging out of the boar forest. The wild boar was 4 or 5 times the size of a normal one, like a tank rolling in. Several female players couldn't dodge in time and were instantly killed, respawning back at the novice village. Quick, retreat! We don't have enough people to kill this boss. The short-haired woman made a decisive decision to withdraw her troops. Lin Jichen teased, You guys are really lucky, running into the biggest boss of the novice village. The short-haired woman glared at him and said, No need for your snide remarks. Lin Jichen chuckled, You misunderstand. I mean, if you give up on this boss, I'll take it on. You? With what? Didn't you sell your bow? Lin Jichen glanced at the iron sword in her hand and smiled. I might be out of equipment, but could I borrow your sword for a bit? The iron sword was bought by the short-haired woman at the weapon shop, with copper coins earned from slaying lesser monsters and completing minor tasks. Are you joking? Taking on the wild boar king with just an iron sword, all by yourself? The short-haired woman still couldn't believe it. Just tell me if you'll lend it or not. Hurry up, or more of your people will die, Lin Jichen reminded her. The short-haired woman handed over the sword, and Lin Jichen, after saying thanks, disappeared from her sight. The words, catch the thief, that were about to leave the short-haired woman's lips got stuck in her throat as she saw Lin Jichen actually charging towards the wild boar king. This guy must be crazy, the short-haired woman muttered. Her subordinates also gathered around her, puzzled by Lin Jichen's actions. Wanling's sister, he's not really going to solo the wild boar king, is he? The short-haired woman nodded. That's what he told me. How is that possible? Isn't he just marching to his death? Exactly. He's not just trying to impress you, Wanling's sister, by playing the hero, is he? It's very possible. The handsome guy does look quite good, a decent match for our Wanling sister. You naughty girls, need a lesson, don't you? The short-haired woman was teased, blushing with annoyance. Lin Jichen had already reached the wild boar king. Seeing the beast-like size of the wild boar, he felt a bit of regret. If he had known, he would have sold the bow later. With the green bamboo snake bow, it would have been easier to deal with it. But now the challenge was a bit harder, but not impossible. Lin Jichen demonstrated what it meant to be fearless. Facing the wild boar king several times his size, he said nothing and lunged with his sword. The iron sword left a clear white mark on the forehead of the wild boar king, but failed to pierce its skin. 1. This damage made Lin Jichen wince. He had aimed for the wild boar king's weakest spot, yet had only lost a little health. Wild monster, wild boar king. Health, 599,600. Strength, 15. Defense, 20. Speed, 9. Skills, thick hide, reckless charge, tusk thrust. Seeing this information, Lin Jichen was astonished. In his previous life, he had never had the honor of facing the Wild Boar King. Such wilderness bosses were quickly taken down by major guilds as benefits as soon as they spawned. Ordinary players could only dream of encountering one unless they were lucky in the wilderness. Bosses like this one in the novice village were even more sought after. Lin Jichen had entered the game a year after the public test. These bosses were a godsend for guilds to train new players, so of course, they were snapped up. Once Lin Jichen's cultivation improved, he naturally looked down on the likes of the Wild Boar King. So this was Lin Jichen's first encounter with the Wild Boar King. True to its skill, thick hide, it was indeed thick. Although he didn't pierce the skin, the Wild Boar King still felt pain from being hit in a weak spot. It stopped charging at the young girls. It wasn't that the Wild Boar had learned to be compassionate like Zhu Bajie. It simply had only Lin Jichen as its enemy at the moment. Thump, thump, thump. The Wild Boar King's legs, as thick as tree roots, pounded the ground as it charged at Lin Jichen, shaking the earth. Lin Jichen calmly dodged to the side with a swift leap. The Wild Boar King missed, and not giving up, twisted its massive body and charged at Lin Jichen again. This time Lin Jichen seemed to panic and ran away, his fleeing form somewhat comical. The short-haired woman and her subordinates couldn't help but laugh. It looks like he's given up on the solo challenge. Giggle. The handsome guy's escape is so cute. I bet he won't make it. How could he run? I'd be scared to death in his place. The short-haired woman also took pleasure in his misfortune. Serve him right for showing off. We're all newbies anyway. Dying a few times doesn't matter. I hope he learns his lesson and stops bragging. They all thought Lin Jichen was fleeing, but only Lin Jichen himself knew he had no intention of running. He was simply luring the Wild Boar King in the direction he was running. Ahead of him was a cliff with many loose stones on it. As Lin Jichen reached the cliff, the Wild Boar King was close behind. He could feel the ground shaking more intensely beneath his feet. Lin Jichen didn't need to look back. At the last moment, he rolled to the side. With an ungraceful move, he narrowly avoided a fatal blow. The Wild Boar King, having lost its target but unable to stop due to momentum, could only watch as its face and tusks slammed into the cliff. Boom! A loud noise erupted, deafening as if a bomb had gone off. The Wild Boar King hit the cliff, the impact causing it to recoil and take damage. 50. A damage value appeared. The dazed Wild Boar King shook its head, but it wasn't over yet. The cliff was shaken by the impact, and many rocks fell, hitting it on the head. 20, 15, 9. A series of numbers popped up above the Wild Boar King's head. When the rocks stopped falling, a quarter of its health bar had dropped. Lin Jichen, who had taken cover behind a tree to avoid the falling rocks, saw no more stones coming down, and the Wild Boar King still dazed. He charged out again. Another sword strike landed on the Wild Boar King's forehead. The previous white mark and the many rocks had already left the forehead battered and vulnerable. Lin Jichen's sword finally cut through the skin, and blood gushed out from the wound. Critical hit, 8. Not bad. Keep going. Lin Jichen took advantage of the Wild Boar King's confusion and swung his sword relentlessly, striking the same spot with every blow. The wound grew larger, and the Wild Boar King's health continued to drop. The Wild Boar King finally recovered from its daze, feeling the pain on its head. Enraged, it let out a roar and launched a skill attack at Lin Jichen. The Wild Boar King flicked its head, and its tusks thrust towards Lin Jichen's belly like lightning. It intended to skewer Lin Jichen, sending him flying into the sky. The tusk thrust was too fast, and Lin Jichen's current speed couldn't dodge it. In a critical moment, he had no choice but to dive to the ground and roll. With an ungraceful move, he narrowly escaped the deadly strike. Lin Jichen quickly got up from the ground, but instead of dodging, he leaped like a cheetah towards the Wild Boar King. His body soared through the air, gripping the iron sword tightly, and with all his might, using the force of gravity, he plunged the sword tip deep into the Wild Boar King's wound. A puff sound followed, and blood poured out. Critical hit, 8. The sword remained embedded in the wild boar king's head, causing continuous damage. Critical hit, 8. Critical hit, 8. The intense pain drove the wild boar king into a frenzy, charging madly at Lin Jichen. Lin Jichen repeated his tactic, backing against the cliff to avoid the wild boar king's reckless charge. The wild boar king hit the cliff again. With the iron sword stuck in its forehead, the hilt was driven completely through the wild boar king's skull due to the heavy impact. More rocks fell, and the once mighty novice village tyrant met its end beneath the pile of stones. After the wild boar king died, a wisp of blue light, dozens of times richer than that of the green bamboo snake, flowed into Lin Jichen's body. Ding. Cultivation, plus 70. Breakthrough. Initial stage of Qi refining. Chapter 12. Breakthrough in Qi refining realm. Ding. Heaven-defying talent triggered. Against the heavens, all attributes doubled. Ding. Heaven-defying talent triggered. Born against the heavens, awarded a random talent. Ding. Random talent confirmed. Vitality seed. Vitality increased by 10%. Can be upgraded 3 times. Ding. In 30 minutes, the tribulation will descend. Please proceed with caution. A warm current flowed into Lin Jichen's body, like a long-awaited rain quenching a drought, sweeping away all his fatigue and filling him with strength. Lin Jichen hurriedly checked his attributes. Player, Lin Jichen. Innate talent, heaven-defying fate. Sect, none. Prestige, 0. Cultivation, 0/500. Realm, initial stage of Qi refining. Innate attributes, full, always full, no need to waste words. Acquired talent, vitality seed, vitality increased by 10%. Vitality, 1000, 1000, x2. Plus 10%. Mana, 1000, 1000, x2. Strength, 10, x2. Plus 3. Mental power, 10, x2. Defense, 10, x2. Speed, 10, x2. Skills, none. Equipment, iron sword. Stepping into the Qi refining realm meant embarking on the path of immortality and officially becoming a cultivator, a massive increase in strength. All combat attributes were supposed to increase tenfold, but due to the heaven-defying fate talent, they doubled again. That's a 20-fold increase. This is the difference between cultivators and ordinary people. And he also gained an additional talent, Vitality Seed, increasing his vitality limit by 10%. This talent could evolve with each minor realm breakthrough. For example, upon reaching the mid-stage of Qi refining, it would evolve into Vitality Sprout, increasing the vitality limit by 20%. At the late stage of Qi refining, it would evolve to the highest grade, Vitality Tree, increasing the vitality limit by 30%. This talent was extremely useful for Lin Jichen in the early stages, as his attributes were already doubled, and now his vitality was increased by an additional 10%. This meant that while other cultivators at the initial stage of Qi refining had only 1,000 points of vitality, he had 2,200 points, and his vitality would continue to grow as his realm advanced. Seeing these attributes, Lin Jichen really wanted to shout, "Heaven-defying fate, YYDs!" He thought it would take a while to step into the Qi refining realm, but an encounter with the Wild Boar King granted him a huge amount of cultivation, propelling him into the realm. Ding. Congratulations on completing the first kill of the novice village boss in Tale of Immortal. A global announcement will be made. Do you wish to hide your name? Don't hide. Lin Jichen glanced behind him. The short-haired girl and her group were all watching, so hiding was pointless. As soon as Lin Jichen made his choice, all players heard an official global announcement at that moment. Congratulations to player Lin Jichen for completing the first kill of a boss in Tale of Immortal, awarded 200 prestige points and +1 innate luck. We hope other players continue to strive. This announcement shocked all players. The game had only been in open beta for so long, and someone had already killed a boss. Which guild's expert is this Lin Jichen? Too awesome. Never heard of this person before. WDNMD, Our little elephant guild spent so much manpower and resources, and just when the boss's health was down to half, someone else snatched the first kill. Exactly. Many guilds were competing for the first kill, but someone beat us to it. Lin Jichen must be from a major guild, using Zerg tactics to stack up. Probably he just finished it off. Just wait. Knowing how things go, soon this Lin Jichen will make an announcement promoting his guild, attracting a huge wave of fans. While everyone was discussing fervently, Lin Jichen didn't expect that killing the Wild Boar King would bring such an extra benefit, the boss's first kill. He wasn't very familiar with it after all. He only came into contact with the game a year after its launch, by which time all the first kills had become history. His innate luck was already maxed out, so adding more was useless, but the 200 prestige points were still very appealing. Prestige was very useful in Tale of Immortal, as those with high prestige could easily obtain management positions in sects. Moreover, they could walk sideways in various towns, and if chased by enemies, the town's NPCs would even help deal with them. In the future, wanting to buy land and establish a faction in towns would also require prestige. Happy with his gains, Lin Jichen did not forget the side effects of heaven-defying fate. Doubling attributes was correct, and the acquired talent reward was also correct. But at the same time, every major realm breakthrough would also bring about a tribulation. He looked around. The short-haired girl and her subordinates were still recovering from their shock. They had witnessed Lin Jichen single-handedly take down the Wild Boar King, and their amazement was indescribable. One person, a novice with just an iron sword, had taken down the Wild Boar King with a hefty 600 points of vitality. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would believe it. At this moment, the sky began to gather dark clouds, and the daylight dimmed. Lin Jichen hurried to clear the battlefield, searching the stone piles for the soul burial mound of the Wild Boar King. This might be the first boss to be taken down in Tale of Immortal, and coupled with Lin Jichen's great luck, a plethora of equipment was dropped. Spirit Grade, Crimson Cloud Sword. Strength, plus 115, critical plus 7, comes with a 1% armor-piercing effect, and every 3 attacks on the same target triggers an additional 50 points of damage. Requirement: exclusive to sword. Cultivator players, other players cannot trigger the effect damage. Spirit Grade Illuminating Staff. Mental Power, plus 10. Spirit Grade Skill Cooldown, 10%. Mana 500 points. Requirement: exclusive to magic cultivators. Spirit Grade Movement Skill. Phantom Step. Speed plus 10. Within a 10-meter range when used, can turn into an afterimage, moving incredibly fast. Mana cost, 100 points. Cooldown, 10 seconds. Requirement: none. Besides these 3 green, or Spirit Grade, pieces of equipment, there were also 4 white, Ordinary Grade, pieces of equipment. Ordinary Grade Iron Plate Boots. Speed plus 3. Ordinary Grade Heartguard Leather Armor. Defense plus 3. Ordinary Grade Copper Head Knife. Strength, Fulvor. Ordinary Grade Iron Fist Gauntlets. Strength 3. In addition to these, there was a large pile of copper coins, looking to be several hundred, and also 10 lower-grade spirit stones. Lin Jichen scooped up these items into his storage bag and turned to glance in the direction of the short-haired girl. He noticed that the subordinates previously sent to the village had returned and were excitedly reporting to the short-haired girl. "How about it? I didn't lie to you, did I?" Lin Jichen asked as he returned. At this moment, all the female players beside the short-haired girl were looking at him with adoration. The short-haired girl nodded and said, "Your information was very valuable, indeed worth 500,000. "Then that's settled. Goodbye." Lin Jichen dropped these words and made to leave. He had to leave. The tribulation was coming, and he needed to find a way to cross it. "Wait," the short-haired girl called out to him. Lin Jichen turned back jokingly. "You're not thinking of looting a burning house, are you?" The short-haired girl huffed. "I'm not that kind of person." "Then is there anything else?" Lin Jichen asked. The equipment you just got from killing the wild boar king. Do you have any you won't use? Can you sell them to us? Lin Jichen thought about it, and indeed had some he didn't need. The illuminating staff, copper head knife, and iron fist gauntlets were all useless to him, as they were for magic cultivators, knife cultivators, and body cultivators. He needed to keep the rest for himself. Lin Jichen took out these 3 pieces of equipment and said, "Name your price. If it doesn't meet my expectations, I might as well auction them in the village." The short-haired girl's eyes lit up when she saw the 3 pieces of equipment, especially the staff. That staff was top-notch, perfect for the boss. Chapter 13. Confronted with these 3 pieces of equipment, the short-haired woman pondered briefly before speaking. "I'll offer you 50,000 for both the iron fist gauntlets and the bronze head saber. How does that sound?" Lin Jichen nodded in agreement. Not every piece of equipment could fetch the price of 500,000 like the green bamboo snake bow. Firstly, the bow was the first auctioned item, and with its poison arrows, it was considered top tier for novice gear. Its price had soared to 500,000 thanks to the short-haired woman's deliberate bidding. If Lin Jichen really thought any ordinary novice gear could sell for 500,000, he would be wildly optimistic. The true value of the green bamboo snake bow would be lucky to reach 50,000. Besides, the iron fist gauntlets and the bronze head saber couldn't compare to the bow equipped with poison arrows. The difference was too great. Getting 50,000 for each was already a generous offer, and Lin Jichen had no complaints. As for this spirit-grade equipment, to be honest, it's our guild's first piece of spirit-grade gear, and its attributes are excellent. How about this? I'll give you another 500,000, making it a total of 600,000. What do you think? After speaking, the short-haired woman looked at Lin Jichen nervously, ready to increase her offer if he showed any dissatisfaction. She wasn't just buying the equipment. She also wanted to recruit this expert for her boss. A man who could solo the wild boar king was nothing short of an expert, a top-notch one at that. While they couldn't recruit him, since the Moonshadow Guild only admitted girls, that didn't stop them from befriending Lin Jichen and building a good relationship. They could always ask for his help with tough bosses in the future. The short-haired woman was prepared to raise her offer, but Lin Jichen quickly agreed without any sign of dissatisfaction. "All right, 600,000 it is. Hurry up and transfer the money. I've got things to do." Lin Jichen wasn't opposed to asking for more, but time was of the essence as the heavenly tribulation was imminent. Besides, he disliked hassle and was content as long as he had enough cash. Seeing Lin Jichen's agreement, the short-haired woman promptly transferred 600,000. After confirming the transaction, Lin Jichen handed over the equipment and ran off without looking back. "Hey, what now?" Lin Jichen asked impatiently. The short-haired woman was speechless. Normally, young men who met her couldn't move an inch, clinging to her like flies, eager to speak more and win her favor. Only Lin Jichen was like a block of wood, never initiating conversation and seemingly disdainful of her. This was a first for the short-haired woman. "Let's be friends. If you have any equipment in the future, you can sell it to our Moonshadow Guild. We guarantee fair prices." She sent a friend request to Lin Jichen, who nodded and accepted, officially becoming friends. After adding each other, the short-haired woman glanced at his name. Lin Jichen. It sounded nice, probably not his real name. Lin Jichen also checked her name, Su Wanling. With the friend request settled, Lin Jichen truly took off, disappearing into the wild boar forest without looking back. Su Wanling found Lin Jichen to be an odd character. It was as if he found staying with a group of beautiful women for even a second unbearable. Could he be gay? After leaving the wild boar forest, Lin Jichen sprinted towards the outskirts of the village, with the dark clouds above following him. With his current abilities, facing the heavenly tribulation was like an ant shaking a tree, a sure path to death. So Lin Jichen had to run. Of course, he couldn't outrun lightning. His destination was the teleportation array. The weapon shop owner's letter from the sword sect had marked the location of the teleportation array. Thanks to his chi-refining realm attributes and the boost from his iron-soled shoes, Lin Jichen's speed had reached 23 points, while others were still at 1. The gap was as if others were walking while he was riding a horse, whipping it to go faster. Players around could only see a shadow whizzing past them. If this were reality, even Usain Bolt would retire in tears. With 3 minutes left before the tribulation, Lin Jichen finally found the teleportation array near the village. An old man with white hair sat beside it, smoking dried tobacco. "Young man, want to use the teleportation array? It's been out of repair for years and unusable, unless you can provide 10 spirit stones to fix it. As a reward, you'll be exempt from future teleportation fees from this village. How about it?" Normally, Lin Jichen wouldn't play the Good Samaritan, providing spirit stones for others' benefit. Even with free future teleportation, it wasn't worth it. Who would bother traveling to the novice village every day? He could simply walk out if he didn't want to use the teleportation array. But he was in a rush and had to flee immediately. Reluctantly, he handed over the 10 spirit stones he had just obtained from the Wild Boar King. The old man joyfully fixed the teleportation array on the spot. Ding! By selflessly repairing the village's teleportation array and benefiting others, you are rewarded with 120 reputation points. Reputation points as well. That was more like it, a decent reward. The teleportation array is fixed, young man. Where would you like to go? Tianyan Sword Sect. No problem. The Tianyan Sword Sect is a fine place for those seeking the path of cultivation. Elder Qingsong is the most patient teacher there. Becoming his disciple would be greatly beneficial. Lin Jichen hadn't expected the old man to give him such a good recommendation, an extra perk for fixing the teleportation array. Thank you. He decided to take Elder Qingsong as his master, as he was new to being a sword cultivator and didn't know which NPC from the sword sect was more powerful. Standing on the teleportation array, a column of light rose, and Lin Jichen vanished from the novice village. Lin Jichen's true journey of cultivation had officially begun. The Tianyan sword sect was located in the Taiyan mountain range of Mushan province. As the largest sword sect in Mushan province, it was the dream destination for many sword cultivator players to learn their craft. Lin Jichen now stood outside the gates of the Tianyan sword sect, facing a massive diamond stone. Carved on the stone were the bold, wild characters, Tianyan sword sect. The characters didn't seem carved, but rather written with a sharp and vigorous brush stroke, each stroke naturally perfect. Considering the hardness of the diamond stone, ordinary carving couldn't achieve such an effect. It must have been a sword cultivator who inscribed it with a sword. Especially when looking closely at each character, it felt as if sharp, unparalleled sword chi was slashing towards him. Lin Jichen's mind was immersed in the characters, nearly forgetting the threat of the heavenly tribulation above. Comprehending the Tianyan sword intent, swordsmanship aptitude, plus 5%. Returning to his senses, Lin Jichen realized that just by looking at these characters, he had comprehended sword intent. Swordsmanship aptitude, unlike innate talent, made it easier for those with higher aptitude to improve their proficiency in sword skills. Just a glance at these characters had brought such a benefit, the advantage of having full comprehension. Before his rebirth, he had visited the Tianyan sword sect and seen this stone tablet many times, but never gained anything from it. When he had the time, he would explore the entire sword sect. Who knows what else he might comprehend. Chapter 14. Thunder rumbled ominously in the sky, causing Lin Jichen to momentarily retract his good mood as he hurried towards the Tianyan sword sect. "Halt! Who goes there?" A disciple guarding the gate stopped him. Lin Jichen presented a letter of introduction, which, upon inspection, allowed him passage. "Take this letter to the elder in charge of affairs in the East for registration. Then choose the elder you wish to apprentice under, and present this letter to them. Whether they accept you as a disciple is up to your own fate." "Thank you." Lin Jichen promptly pocketed the letter and dashed inside. What's with that guy running like his life depends on it? Is he in a rush to be reborn or something? The guarding disciple muttered. If Lin Jichen had heard him, He would have retorted that he wasn't rushing to be reborn, but that if he didn't hurry, he might indeed be forced into a rebirth. Failing a tribulation crossing meant nothing less than complete obliteration, a dual death in both the game and reality. He had every reason to run as fast as he could. He sprinted all the way into the Tianyan sword sect. Gazing upon the grandeur of the sword sect, Lin Jichen couldn't help but admire it as the foremost sect under the heavens. It was far more majestic than the magic-oriented sect he belonged to before. The sword sect was the most favored among players, as who wouldn't dream of sword flight, roaming the world freely. Thus, the sword sect had the most players, the most experts, and the fiercest competition. For Lin Jichen, this was a brand new challenge. But now he had no time to admire the scenery of the sect. He was ready to seek out a powerhouse in the east to help him survive the lightning tribulation. Just as he was about to move, several streaks of light shot out from the inner sanctum of the sword sect. Then more and more lights flew from all directions within the sect. Each streak of light was a powerful figure, each carrying an unfathomable aura. Lin Jichen had no doubt that any one of them could snuff out his life as easily as pinching an ant. As a former master of the Enlightenment realm, he was quite familiar with these auras. Most of them were of the gathering spirit realm and nascent soul realm. A few were even of the divine transformation realm. In Tale of Immortal, there were 10 major realms: Qi refining, foundation establishment, crystallization, golden core, gathering spirit, nascent soul, divine transformation, enlightenment, feather transformation, and ascending to immortality. Each realm was further divided into 3 sub-realms. Before his rebirth, Lin Jichen had only cultivated to the mid-stage of the Enlightenment realm, and the highest realm players had reached was the peak of the Enlightenment realm. No one had reached the feather transformation realm, let alone ascended to immortality, not even the NPCs of the 4 continents. In the past, Lin Jichen wouldn't have taken these people seriously, but now he was just a Qi-refining realm novice. Moments later, a figure in white robes, pure as snow, emerged from the sword sect. Lin Jichen looked up and saw an incomparably stunning woman. Her beauty was breathtaking, transcending the mundane world. Her black hair framed her face, which glowed like the morning dawn. Her phoenix eyes shimmered like autumn waters, yet they commanded respect. The faint morning light fell upon her, highlighting her graceful figure and slender waist against her white dress. Her eyes sparkled, and her water sleeves fluttered, captivating the soul. As if blossoms bloomed from water, her bones like sinking stones, her flesh like jade. Upon seeing this woman, Lin Jichen's heart skipped a beat. He recognized her, having had the fortune to meet her once before. She was the renowned sect master of the Tianyan sword sect, Lin Jichen, a superpower in Tale of Immortal, with a cultivation at the pinnacle of the feather transformation realm. Lin Jichen had seen her because, after the game merged with reality, she had helped China combat the invasion of evil demons, slaying 1,000,000 ghostly spirits with a single sword strike. Since then, she was worshipped as a deity by countless players. When everyone in the sky saw her emerge, they immediately bowed respectfully. "Sect Master, why does my Tianyan sect show signs of a heavenly tribulation? Could it be that one of the Elder's direct disciples is breaking through?" Lin Jichen's voice was like the soft strumming of a lute, tingling and authoritative. The crowd shook their heads, indicating their ignorance. Lin Jichen's brows furrowed slightly, her expression puzzled. While everyone was wondering, Lin Jichen, completely overlooked by the crowd, shouted at the top of his lungs, "New disciple Lin Jichen seeks the help of the elders to save my life." Lin Jichen's cry, tinged with desperation, stood out starkly. Everyone turned their gaze downwards. Upon seeing Lin Jichen for the first time, they all sighed inwardly. What a graceful and handsome young man! His demeanor was gentle and refined, like a refreshing spring breeze, his appearance striking and dignified. Despite wearing simple linen clothes, his otherworldly aura could not be concealed. Standing tall like an orchid and a jade tree, smiling like the bright moon in one's embrace, His presence was lofty and transcendent. It was as if his appearance was precisely crafted to fit one's ideal of beauty. All the elders, including Lin Feiyan, couldn't help but have an excellent first impression of Lin Jichen. "Are you a new disciple?" Lin Feiyan inquired, her voice still cool but melodious. Lin Jichen had thought he would, at most, find a law enforcement elder to help, but to encounter the sect master of the Tianyan sword sect was like grabbing onto a lifeline. Reporting to the sect master, disciple Lin Jichen has just arrived to seek a master and was about to register with the law enforcement elder. "Oh, then why do you cry for help?" Lin Jichen awkwardly pointed upwards, saying, "I've just entered the Qi refining realm and encountered a heavenly tribulation, hence my call for help." "What?" The crowd couldn't help but laugh, thinking this new disciple, despite his good looks, must be joking. Heavenly tribulations were something that only began when one in the crystallization realm broke through to the golden core realm. How could Lin Jichen, a mere novice in the initial stage of Qi refining, possibly face a heavenly tribulation? It was utterly preposterous. Just as Lin Jichen was about to explain, the heavenly tribulation arrived. Boom! A bolt of lightning, thick as a man's arm, pierced through the dense clouds and struck viciously towards Lin Jichen's head. Lin Jichen lamented, "My life is over. Save me." Knowing he couldn't withstand the might of the heavenly tribulation, Lin Jichen could only shout for help, hoping for a kind soul to lend a hand. When everyone saw the lightning truly aimed at Lin Jichen, they were astonished and prepared to rescue him. But Lin Feiyan was quicker. With a light flick of her hand, a rosy light enveloped Lin Jichen. As the lightning struck, the light formed a barrier, completely shielding him from the thunderous assault. The terrifying might of the lightning had no effect on it, not even causing a ripple, and it vanished in the blink of an eye. After the single bolt, the dark clouds quickly dissipated, and the sky cleared. Lin Jichen's anxious heart finally relaxed. Fortunate indeed to be alive. But though he survived, he now faced a serious issue, a very serious issue. All the elders, including Lin Feiyan, looked at Lin Jichen with amazement. A Qi refining novice attracting a heavenly tribulation was something they had never encountered before. There were only two possibilities for such a phenomenon. The first was that the boy possessed a treasure that triggered the tribulation. The second was that the boy had an extraordinary talent, envied by the heavens. And the higher the talent, the earlier the tribulation. Either possibility was enough to pique the interest of the powerhouses. Lin Feiyan seemed just as curious as the other elders. She lifted her jade-like hand, and a stream of spiritual energy flew into Lin Jichen's crown. As the spiritual energy circulated through his body, the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth became agitated, rushing into him frantically. The spiritual energy, like fish to water, joyfully swam towards Lin Jichen. Chapter 15. All the elders were shocked, including Lin Feiyan, who was also very surprised. At this moment, the happiest person was none other than Lin Jichen. Cultivation plus 20. Cultivation plus 20. Cultivation plus 20. Thanks to the sectmaster's spiritual energy boost, the spiritual energy surged into his body, causing his cultivation to continuously climb. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the spiritual energy within Lin Jichen dissipated, and the surrounding spiritual energy returned to normal. Lin Jichen glanced at his cultivation. 500. Just a bit more and it would have been full. He felt a bit regretful. If only it had increased a little longer. The test ended, and everyone looked at Lin Feiyan, waiting for his answer. Lin Feiyan's usually impassive expression finally softened, revealing a hint of a smile. At that moment, it was as if the heavens and earth paled in comparison, and all flowers bloomed in splendor. Good, very good. I didn't expect my Tianyan sword sect to have another prodigy. Perhaps in the future, his achievements might even surpass mine. Ah, the crowd was astonished. They hadn't expected the sect master to give such high praise. What kind of talent did this kid have to earn such an evaluation from the sect master? Sect master, just how exceptional is this disciple's talent for you to praise him so highly? This is the first time I've seen you do so, a female elder couldn't help but ask with a smile. Lin Jichen didn't beat around the bush and answered indifferently. His innate physique, spiritual grace, and comprehension are all excellent, even better than mine when I was his age. Tell me, isn't his talent remarkable? Hiss! All the elders gasped. No wonder he could receive such high praise from the sect master. With such talent, he indeed deserved such expectations. After the shock, everyone's thoughts began to stir. With such a talented disciple, who wouldn't want to take him as their own? Once Lin Jichen became a prominent figure, it would bring great honor to them as his masters. Moreover, they could also expect to be looked after by their disciple in return. Such a good opportunity, everyone wanted to seize it. This disciple has yet to pledge to a master. How about this? Let him become my disciple, and I will teach him well. A slightly plump man in a purple robe was the first to speak up, but naturally the others were not pleased. Such a promising seedling couldn't just be claimed by anyone. They were all elders, and none had special privileges. He should become my disciple, and I will teach him everything I know. Elder Qingsong, you already have so many disciples. Don't compete with us. I can also teach him all the skills of the Tianyan sword sect. Elder Qu, you are a female cultivator. It's inconvenient for you to teach a male disciple. Better to come to me. Don't be polite, he should become my disciple. The elders argued with each other, all hoping to take Lin Jichen as their disciple. Lin Jichen watched as so many elders vied to become his master, feeling incredibly pleased inside. But to make a good impression, he still suppressed his joy, pretending to be unaffected by honor or disgrace. Just as the dispute was unresolved, Lin Jichen spoke up. There's no need to argue. This new disciple will join my tutelage. Everyone didn't expect the sect master to join the fray for a disciple. Once the sect master had spoken, naturally, no one dared to argue further. Sect master, don't you never take disciples? Elder Qu asked, still somewhat reluctant. Lin Jichen smiled slightly, her phoenix eyes shimmering, her red lips parting slightly. In recent years, my cultivation has stagnated, and I've had no breakthroughs. I don't plan to enter seclusion again in the short term. Since I have the time, I might as well take a closed-door disciple to pass the days. Hearing this, everyone had no choice but to give up. Lin Jichen's beautiful eyes returned to Lin Jichen. Are you willing to become my closed-door disciple and follow me into the inner hall for cultivation? Lin Jichen could never have imagined that he had initially come for Elder Qingsong. Yet, unexpectedly, the sect master wanted to take him as a disciple. Ding, you've triggered the greatest opportunity of the Tianyan sect. The current sect master, Lin Jichen, wishes to take you as a closed-door disciple. Do you accept? I am willing. Disciple greets master, Lin Jichen answered without hesitation. As for Elder Qingsong, whom he had initially considered, let him go play by himself. This was the strongest support in the Tianyan sect. After all, taking a master was all about finding support. Naturally, he should choose the thickest and biggest one. No, Lin Jichen's legs were slender, white, and long. Seeing Lin Jichen perform the salute, Lin Jichen nodded in satisfaction. From today onwards, you are my only disciple, Lin Jichen. Follow me. With that, Lin Jichen waved her hand gracefully, and Lin Jichen was lifted into the air, following her towards the inner hall of the Tianyan sect. The other elders, seeing this, could only shake their heads with envy and reluctance, returning to their own abodes. The Tianyan sword sect occupied an extremely vast area, almost the entire Taiyin mountain range. The sword sect was divided into the outer hall, branch halls, and inner hall, and this was the case not just for the sword sect, but for other sects as well. The outer hall and branch halls were reserved for players. Ordinary players could only take masters in the outer hall, and they were taught by the external elders. Exceptional players could have the chance to be taken as disciples by the elders of the various branch halls. The inner hall, however, had nothing to do with players. It was where the NPC elite disciples were cultivated. These were the elite disciples of the various sects before the public testing of the players. Unless your talent was 1 in a million, you might have a chance to enter the inner hall. Inside the Tianyan sect's inner hall, the scenery of the inner hall was completely different from that of the outer hall. If the outer hall was like a Taoist palace, then the inner hall was like a fairyland. 12 towering mountains stood amidst the clouds at the mountain peaks, as if lifting the entire Taiyan mountain range into the sky. Each mountain was unique. Some were filled with spiritual herbs and exuded a rich medicinal fragrance. Some bred cranes and spiritual monkeys, and others were covered with exotic flowers and plants. Clouds of auspiciousness intertwined among them, and the golden divine radiance of the sun and moon enveloped the entire inner hall. The central mountain was the largest and most conspicuous. A magnificent palace stood atop it, reaching into the sky. The halls on the other mountains paled in comparison, looking like stars surrounding the moon. Mists lingered on the mountain, with dazzling golden light. The golden radiance of the other mountains all stemmed from this highest mountain. On this highest mountain, there were many water caltrop trees. When the warm wind blew, the caltrop flowers danced, the white sea of flowers swaying and drifting into the sea of clouds, a sight of stunning beauty. At the foot of the mountains was a vast square. On the square sat thousands of young disciples, both male and female. They all sat earnestly on meditation cushions, listening to the white-bearded elder lecturing at the front. Lin Jichen casually glanced over and noticed that these young disciples had at least reached the crystal realm in cultivation. Some had even reached the golden core realm, comparable in strength to some of the outer hall elders. These were the cream of the crop among the young disciples of the Tianyan sword sect, the future backbone of the sect. The white-bearded elder teaching the class greeted Leng Feiyan with a smile and a bow when he saw her. All the disciples also hurriedly stood up to pay their respects. Leng Feiyan nodded and said to the white-bearded elder, "Elder Tianjian, no need for such formalities. I'm just managing the sect on behalf of my father. You can call me Feiyan, just like when I was a child." Elder Tianjian waved his hand with a smile. "The rules of the sect cannot be taken lightly. The old sect master has passed the position to you, and you are now the new sect master of the Tianyan sect, no longer the naive young girl of the past." Saying this, Elder Tianjian noticed Lin Jichen behind Leng Feiyan and asked in surprise, "Who is this?" "My newly accepted closed-door disciple," Leng Feiyan stated plainly. Whoa! Her words stirred up 1,000 waves. 1,000 disciples were shocked, immediately starting to whisper among themselves. "No way! This kid is the sect master's closed-door disciple. This junior brother is quite handsome. What merits and virtues does he have to be accepted by the sect master?" That's right, even our senior brother, a prodigy, entered the Golden Core realm at a young age, and with such talent, he didn't catch the sect master's eye. This guy is only at the Qi refining realm. What a joke. Exactly, he's not worthy. I could defeat him with just one finger.
What's up, story lovers? This is the Story Guy, and if you're hungry for crazy tales and mind-blowing narratives, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our weekly dose of crazy cheating stories, fun fiction and gut-ripping comedy from around the world. But that's not all. We also create our own original stories, and trust me, you won't find these anywhere else. Want even more spine-tingling reads? Head down to the description and grab our exclusive story collections. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.